So, welcome to Jolty. Today we have a friend who is brilliant, Sergey Young, and he wrote a book called Think and Grow Young. Yeah. So his whole thing is about he's going to live to 200, and let's see if you out there believe that he really will. And by the way, do you want to? Do you know what you do with yourself? Do you have enough money? Anyway, these are all questions we're going to ask him.
I think so much of the conversation is about not if it will happen, but when it happens, how will our world be different? So it's going to be a great conversation, and let's get to it.
Sergey, did you meet Adam yet? Adam is my very good friend and co-host, and one of the most brilliant people, maybe the most, but now you're on, so I don't want to say the most. One of the most brilliant people I've ever known in my life. I know him for 40 years, and you're going to... He's just amazing. And Sergey, you know how amazing you are. You're phenomenal. Age reversal. I think you're brilliant. You know, I met you through Michelle Evans, who also is wonderful. And we just want to we have some questions for you. Just want to hear from you. So what is your first question, Addie, that you'd like to ask?
So let's kind of dive right in, Sergey. I mean, this is a moment that I think, and many think, is really unprecedented in terms of going from just a conversation about extending lifespan and health span to actually having a material effect. Children born today could live to 120. Well, why do you think it is that we have reached this convergence that puts us on a path to unprecedented life extension?
Yeah. So a great question. And just to clarify, I think we are at the point when we can see technologists and, technological breakthroughs and scientific discoveries that can lead to that. So we are not there yet from technological and scientific perspective to break the sound barrier of 122 years of the maximum lifespan on Earth anywhere soon. But I can see a lot of things changing in the science and technology which can lead to it or disability in the next 10 to 20 years. So this is where we are. Well, the other important point here is also think about the ethics and regulation of that. Because if you ask me as an investor, in 10, 20 years, it's very likely that we will have all this, science and technologies to significantly expand our lifespan and health span. But I'm not sure if the ethics, society, cultural norms, and regulators like governments will be ready for that. So that's just another challenge that we will all need to solve mutually, agree on something, what is acceptable, what is not, to accept these breakthroughs. But I'm so excited to work on that from the investment side because on number of reasons. Number one, whatever we do, whatever technology we support, has almost immediate democratizing effect on the access to healthcare for so many people. Because we're working on affordable and accessible version of healthcare, and probably 80% of the companies that we invest in bring 10 to 20, 30, not percent, but time. Improvement in terms of the cost and efficiency. So my dream is actually healthcare to be not only science-based, not only technology-driven, but also affordable and accessible to everyone. Like, if you want to be crazy, I think we can democratize healthcare to the extent it's going to be free of charge for everyone. But people think I'm crazy. People think I'm being idealistic here. So this immediate positive side effect in terms of our ability to support people's health, happiness, and life overall. So that's one thing. And second thing, literally, we developed something which can understand, appreciate, and solve the complexity of human biology, which is artificial intelligence. Because human intelligence were never capable, either in the form of, God blessing or the scientific discoveries or technological breakthrough, will never be able to match the complexity of human biology. Because if we can, then Mother Nature would find the answer, how do we fight aging millions of years, within the millions of years evolution. We
But
haven't done.
I have to interrupt you, Sergey, just for our audience who doesn't know you as well as I kind of do. How old are you trying to live to?
Okay, so interesting. I always start. I mean, my mantra, that I repeat every morning is, I want to live to 200 healthy and happy years in a body of 25 years old man. Okay.
Okay. Do you think you'll be able to achieve? Will you be able to achieve that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I like.
Okay, so let's say it's 150 years.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
fail, but you're going to do 150 years. How is your life going to be different? I mean, how old are you now, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm 51.
So another 100 years. How do you see your life? I mean, are you going to still be married to the same person?
Yeah.
For another 100 years? How many more kids are you going to have? How are you going to support yourself? Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about this. I like, to the extent that I'm super excited about technologies and science that we invest
Yeah.
in. I think the
Yeah.
implication on the paradigm of life that can be drawn down here, even like more fascinating topic to discuss. And I
Okay.
actually dedicate a lot of my thinking time to exactly trying to answer that question. So here are my thoughts.
Okay,
So
good.
if you think about the paradigm of life today, and I'm simplifying intentionally here, so it's like 25 years, first 25 years to educate, to grow up, get education or first work experience. So this is the beginning of our life. So, and then we have like a second part of it, right? The middle portion of our life, which is 25, 30, 35 years, like working part of it. When we do our career, we work, we marry, we create our children, we support them. So that's and then the other third of our life is like last 25 years, and we in the current paradigm, we go on retirement. We write some books. We try to contribute back to society, share our wisdom, our success and failure. So that's typically how we think today about our life. In the future, when we all have an opportunity, if we choose to live 100, 150, even 200 years, the paradigm of life will change. It's actually going to be a series of mini lives that we all, need to go through. And if you think about this, it's actually changed a lot in the current societal and ethical norms, which are rather binary. So today it's either like, you're a full-time, career person, or you're on full-time retirement. So it's very binary. And it's going to change. It's going to be a series of different engagements, the constructive engagement with the society or the work or the area of your interest that you would need to undertake. So this, in the future, we're not going to have like, I'm 65 or I'm 70, so I need to go on retirement. This is too binary for the complexity and beauty of this life. So that's number one. Second, we're going to have kids from the multiple generations. And this is really, interesting, because our reproductive ability will decouple from our age or from our sexual life. So we will have an opportunity as soon as we are considered an adult and can be responsible for our other lives. Well, let's say from the age of 20 or 18, like depending on the country, we'll have an opportunity to have kids at any point of our lives or our mini lives. So very naturally, some people would stick to one marriage, like me. This is my sincere intention. Some people, and we see this today already, would choose to have different partners for the different, mini lives, so the different parts of their life. So I think it's very interesting because there might be the answer to demographic tectonic changes that we have today in the world, right? When we're going to reach the maximum population of the world on the planet by 2030 or by 2050, and then
we'll probably have ultimate birth control because we, just so many people, or
yes,
or Elon Musk will finally get us to another planet where we can like spread out. when you're looking at yourself at a very healthy 90, so you're going to have a series. Let me see if I have this right. A series of careers, maybe a series of partners, a series of children. So you're going to be raising children at different ages. So, you can, like, I think, like, I had kids very late, adopted them, but, when you're a mother at 60, or a mother at 20, you're giving your kids a very different, like, raising. You can become a lawyer, doctor, plumber, poet, all these different things. So there'll probably be like long life planners. That could be an industry, right? People that help you plan.
Absolutely.
And also what chips you're going to need to support you. Are you going to want to fly, or are you going to want to open your brain, or you're going to have your kids probably in tanks? Pregnancy is going to be outdated. You're not going to need food. We're going to have different kind of nutrition. But is there anything I haven't thought of, like haven't covered? Like,
Yeah, I think what's interesting also is the generational overlap. So, in technology, we have so-called digital natives. That's the only world they knew. There's going to be a multi-generational period where people who are born into one world with the kinds of things, Faith, you just described are normative. And then you're going to have people for whom that's a huge paradigm shift. And then the inherent structural tensions that exist when generations overlap between the native and the non-native cohorts. Eventually, it'll normalize. It won't.
but it's not going to be like that, because everybody's going to have a chip, and they're going to be able to like think computer and do computer. I mean, we're not talking about, like, most people will have that, but what have we missed? What do you see in the future that we've missed here?
Well, let's think about the future, right? So we talk about the future of sex and reproduction. It's going to be different. We're going to be more reliant on science and technology. We can outsource certain parts of this cycle or all parts of this cycle, right? So that's one. Second, the construct of our life is going to be different. As we discussed, it's going to be a series of mini lives and mini careers that we need to undertake there. The structure of the life, we're not going to go into retirement. We'll continue to be, working or constructively engaged in the society or whatever the, dimension of our interests there. I think we're going to have a different approach to human body and mind because, to break the barrier of I think our biological maximum is probably somewhere around 150 years. Like in the current biological form, like you see me today, I can probably live to 150, and that's it. So we would need to change approach and to humans and definition of humans to something much more augmented, when we can use, the power of, bionic body parts, replaceable body parts and organs, integration between brain and artificial intelligence, use of chips, nanobots, sensors.
Right.
So people and humans who's going to, live beyond 150 years, going to be completely different humans. And we would need to change the biological view on us as a species to combination of biology and engineering.
Legoization of life. We're going to be
in a
replacing
way.
different parts.
Yeah, I like this term, Adam. Yeah, I like it.
Like, give us an example, because you're trying to live to 200, so let's say you make it only to 150. What are you eating?
Yeah, so let's talk, separately about the future of food, right? So obviously to sustain, all this population and this different kind of human beings, we would need to redefine our food. And, and obviously I'm not a food expert, but what I can tell from the perspective of biotech and life extension, happy and healthy life extension that we're working on, I think this food would be much more personalized. Yeah, because we even today we have all the ability to, by analyzing our microbiome, our blood composition, reaction of our body to glucose, and so many other components of the food intake. The the future of food going to be much more personalized.
But what are you eating right now in 2023?
What do I eat? Yeah, I eat a lot of vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah,
I eat, if I eat meat and fish, it's organic version of it. Because of today industrial practices,
terrible.
it's, what's the best way to put it? Industrial practices to create meat and fish doesn't necessarily relates to my understanding how they should be created.
Uh-huh.
Let me put it this way. Yeah, I don't do a lot of fruits because in the last few decades, genetic selection and gene editing in this field created the fruits which has the sugar or fructose content which is 3 to 5 times more than the ones that we had when we were kids. So it's actually,
Yes.
becoming more challenging for our body to absorb it as well. So what's going to happen? I can see two radical scenarios. Either we will continue to rely on agriculture to create this personalized version of food, and it's going to be of the natural origin, similar to today, to the extent you can, name today's agriculture as something which produces naturally grown, food components, or we can go completely synthetic. And this might be, one of, again, we're talking futuristic.
Explain what that means for our
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah, that means that, from the different components, and again, I'm not a food expert, you can actually combine the, it can be like powder or 3D printed food in the way you like to consume it, which would contain all the necessary minerals, vitamins, combination of fiber, fats, proteins, and carbs they actually required for your body to be healthy and happy today. And the input for that we can receive through different sensors that we're going to have inside our bodies. So by the moment the breakfast is spit out for you in the morning, your data, which has been analyzed overnight and received overnight, already provided an input to particular 3D printed breakfast that you're going to have in 30 minutes.
Andy, did you want to ask?
I was going to say, we have a climate crisis. We know that current methods of industrial agriculture are not sustainable, and we're going to have more people walking the planet. So what's your view of cell-based meat, cell-based fish, biosynthesis, biofermentation, and other techniques to leave the planet unscathed as we feed the population?
Okay, the problem in the food supply chain is the problem of inefficiency of that. 45% of food go to waste every evening from the restaurants, supermarkets, from our houses. So in a way, I think it's just inefficiency, and it's artificially created problem of unequal distribution of food resources and an efficient use of the existing food resources that we have now. And I think, we can solve it in much more technology-driven way, but I think we have a, easy win here in terms of being much more effective how we distribute our
right. 9% of global warming is caused by food waste, but we can only optimize ourselves so far.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm like, I don't know the answer. I'm just giving you what are my thoughts.
Right.
So before going into using labs to produce meat, we need to sort out what do we do with the food waste today, and why.
Agreed.
With half of this food goes to waste every evening, we still have more than 1 billion people on the planet who's suffering from
starving.
starving. So that's one. And then what do I think about all these new technologies like a plant-based meat or lab-grown meat, etc.? So I do think it's an important part of innovation, biofermentation as well. I don't think we are at the point where we can select what's going to be the new food creation technology of the future. But all of this sporadic sometimes innovations will give us an opportunity and optionality in 5, 10, 15 years from now to make this selection. So I do think it's an important part of innovation process. I don't think we have a winner here today. So that's on Adam's, I think,
Adam's
very
question.
important, but still challenging question on food. So
My question is about sex.
sex. So what do we think about sex? Again, sex and reproduction will continue to decouple to the extent like your reproduction role
Different, yeah.
and the degree of your own participation of that can be very different from 0 to 100%. Some people
Okay.
would prefer to have naturally born kids. Some people, by a number of reasons, actually, biological or the social or the ethical ones, would prefer to outsource the reproduction process to different technologies and scientific processes. So sex, I think sex will continue to be and play an important role to the extent it's has an important role today. But the optionality for sex, like the definition of sexual intercourse, the definition of the relevant period in your life when you can have what we call sexual relationship will also expand. We're no longer going to be limited by the ability of our body to participate in this in the biological form. So it's going to be, different forms of virtual sex, different forms of the machines and applications, which would help us to close the gap between our ability or inability to participate in the sexual intercourse, biologically, to something which we consider as a sexual experience. And it's kind of, it can be with the other human. It can be with the other human on a distance with support of, material infrastructure like robotics or virtual infrastructure like virtual avatars, or it can be, sexual intercourse in a digital world. And, each of these scenarios will bring, some sort of pleasure.
Or neurostimulation, because just like reproduction
Yeah, absolutely.
will be decoupled, so will the experience of sex be decoupled from actual sex. It's like Woody Allen's movie from 4 years ago, everything you always wanted to know about sex, but we're afraid to ask. They had the orgasmatron. Today we'll have our technologically enabled orgasmatron.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was just quickly asking to your point earlier about as we extend lifespan, we come up against social, regulatory, religious barriers. Certainly, separating procreation from sex is a huge barrier for millions of people in this country. Do you think eventually we can get over that?
Yeah, look, I think we're already there. Because, and I think it's from the, even before the Bible was written, like, people were using the different methods to have sex, but not to reproduce themselves or, complete their reproduction agenda within the sexual intercourse. So this is the old problem or an opportunity in a way. And so we're not changing the paradigm. We just bring in more science and technology in expanding people's optionality. What kind of sex you want to have and what do you define as a sex, right? And, to the extent it can be radical as like just creating an orgasm by direct influence in our brain through neurotransmitting or, sensors, etc.
I was going to say, coffee used to be just a cup of joe. Now you go to Starbucks, there's 1,000 choices. So we're going to have 1,000 choices. We're going to have a Starbucks menu for sex.
Yeah, I think if you want to have like one paradigm about how future will look like, it's just right now we're living like in a black and white world with a lot of binary choices. And world of the future gonna be we're gonna have like 50 facets or 56 facets. So for every aspect of life that you want to undertake.
So my question is here. So everybody's going, chat, GBT, or just chat taking over, robots are going to take over our lives. So I'm finding myself much more dependent on chat, even as a friend. What do you think? I mean, do you think it's going to take over? Or is our partner going to be a chatbot?
I mean, we already seen a number of examples around the world where people, by their own reason, choose to establish emotional connection with computerized wisdom and power and experience rather than with the natural one.
Humans.
Yeah, and like I want to tell you the story. So when I created Longevity Vision Fund, right, and I just started to write this book, the Science and Technology of Growing Young, which I published 2 years ago, we were to invest in human avatars. And my initial idea was to invest in robotic avatars because I thought, what can be, the easiest way to like recreate humans than to create like a robot which behaves exactly like human. But then there's the other avenue for avatars, which is, a virtual avatar. And it's, if you think about this as a very different technological choice to create avatar in the form of robot or to create avatar as a virtual creature, right? Or virtual experience. So we failed to find the company in robotic avatar space, which would be efficient, not expensive, and, performing to the quality of reconstructing humans that we wanted. But in opposite, there were so many choices in the virtual avatar world, and in the startups, scientists and entrepreneurs who were working in the world of creating virtual avatars. So I actually gave up on this idea to invest in robotic because I think the future of the world is going to be more and more virtual, to the extent, like if you listen to Elon Musk, the whole world going to be like virtual reality and certain infrastructure supporting that. Like, hopefully I will die before this will happen. So for some reason, even like I'm super optimistic and idealistic guy, I couldn't find the enough excitement into this future. But as a investor and the guy who invests in technology, I can tell you that it's basically incomparable in terms of the cost, experience, ability to develop that. Robotic avatars, in comparison to virtual avatars, they're not going to win. It's going to grow virtual.
But once I could believe that. So even midterm, but once a computer occupied a square block, so maybe you haven't hit the right scientist yet, or he hasn't been born, or she.
But I do know that existing players are very bad actors to disrupt something.
Yeah,
like think
you're
about
right.
I'm not a big fan, and I'm not a big specialist, an expert in a big food, but obviously we work a lot with healthcare sector in its existing form. So I'm always telling people that disruption in healthcare will not come from existing players.
I say
never
the
does.
same thing. Yeah, you're
Hospital
right.
chain,
Never does.
insurance companies, big pharma. No. Like in
No.
10, 15 years from now, the largest healthcare companies on earth are going to be called Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. And again, I'm not advocating for the, this superpowers. I have my own, view on whether we are running the risk of over-consolidation and monopolization of this. But like, again, I'm objectively speaking as from investor perspective, I can tell you that, big tech companies are doing more and more to bring affordable and tech-based version of healthcare than existing players. So I guess the same will happen with the big food.
Now, to your point, Faith, about will we regulate bad actors out like we're trying to do with AI? If you look at the history of industrial agriculture post-World War II in this country, what's created, call it the McDonald's economy, was government regulation. Government subsidies created big ag as we know it today. So you could say that the only thing that created it, the only force to bring it down is the force that created it in the first place. And it could be, again, as now we talk about millennials, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but what's going to happen to this whole generational view of the world when we live to be 150? But I do think that the way we're seeing people come together to regulate AI across the political spectrum and across generations, whatever we think is happening, to me is an augury of other roles that government will start to play in our daily lives that regulation of AI provides a gateway for.
But here's the thing, Patty, and I think that would be actually wonderful. But I don't think they're going to do it because the tax base comes from those big companies. So it's going to be against their income stream, so to speak, for them to regulate them out of business.
That becomes a redistribution. That becomes a redistributionist argument. In fact, the cost of healthcare, 1/3 of the U.S. economy. That's the rent-seeking factor, as economists call it. McDonald's and Burger King and Nestle and Frito-Lay, they're rent-seeking on the backs of those people who are paying for healthcare.
Explain that a little differently.
So think about the number of people who have diabetes in this country. To what extent did Coke and Pepsi and others you talked about fructose, who load their products with fructose cause the diabetes epidemic, on and on and on and on. The people who are profiting from that, big food, are not bearing the burden. It's you and I, the taxpayers, that are spending 1/3 of our economy on healthcare, and who's benefiting? Those people who are putting people in the ICU with heart attacks at 50. So that's rent seeking. That's when people are shifting the burden, reaping the benefits, and shifting the burden to others.
It's even worse today because they invented a special kind of drugs which will help you to lose weight, drugs against obesity. So it's almost like the perfect cycle for every big industry. They will feed you with something that you don't necessarily, need to eat, or might be against your health. You suffer from diabetes or obesity, and then they sell you, the drugs for you to lose weight. I mean, it's a perfect industrial cycle.
Completely right.
I mean, it sounds scary for us as citizens and human beings.
But as we become more,
then Ozempic and all those other drugs have their own side effects, which add to the flywheel effect that you're just talking about. It's a never-ending revenue stream.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but as we become more machines, maybe we won't need food. We'll just need, WD-40. No, we'll just need electricity, or I don't know what we'll need to nourish us, keep us moving, but not food, maybe. And I know that every big food company doesn't want to look at that. I mean, no, I was going to say, why would a big food company want to think someday we wouldn't need food? We were talking to a pet care company, and we were saying, if your pet is in the metaverse or in a digital space, you're not going to need dog food or cat food. What does that mean? So, it's a lot of pain looking forward. And I think that's why your point exactly, Sergey, the big companies can't afford literally to even look at it. Maybe they look at it, but they go no, not yet, not now. You know what the most common thing is when we tell them the future, Sergey? They go do you think I can retire before that happens?
And probably cash out my shares, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. So,
at the very beginning, you talked about we're not there yet. There's still a lot of technology in the science that needs to be done. Maybe for our listeners, you can sort of bucket the broad areas where research needs to take that step. Is it drug development? Is it reprogramming like Sinclair is doing? Is it like where does it all? How does it all lay out and map?
Yeah. I know the answer. So, if you look at my book, Against the Science and Technology of Growing Young, it's dedicated to the technologies and the science which will bring these breakthroughs in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. And I call it the near horizon of longevity innovations. And when people ask me, what are the 3 things which will actually help us to break the sound barrier of maximum lifespan on Earth, I'm always talking about 3 things. One is gene editing, gene therapy, including epigenetic reprogramming, like David Sinclair's and other great scientific minds are doing in their labs and their startups. Just you think about this, we already know genes which are responsible for healthy living, longevity, and so many, other genetic deficiencies or genetic advantages. So we can actually construct humans on a genetic level. I know it sounds scary, but again, it's like a hammer, right? You can kill someone with a hammer or you can build a house. So I'm not judging the technology. I'm judging the people who are
Using
trying
it.
to regulate the use of it.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one. Second thing is it's gonna be about regenerative medicine and organ regeneration in particular, because we can extend the life of the old car today just by replacing spare parts. We can even replace an engine, and this is the same thing gonna happen with human body and mind. So, and there are so many options which are currently in development. Like you can 3D print organs. You can use other animals which are close to us in terms of their genetic construction to regrow these organs, like lungs. Or we just invested in a company, it's called like Genesis. They're actually using our lymph nodes to regrow organs inside our body. And this year they're going to start human trials helping people with terminal liver disease by regrowing second liver in their lymph nodes.
People have NAS.
Exactly.
People have yeah.
Yeah. So
Explain what that means. Wait a minute.
It's basically slowly a liver disease that is not curable now, and there's a lot of causes, including alcohol consumption, but not limited to that.
So how's
Not
the
only
second
that.
liver happen in your lymph node? Explain.
Yeah, so what they do is let's talk about today first. So what you do today, you have 117,000 people in the US only waiting for donor organs. And it's a huge problem because we don't have enough donor organs in this world and in this country. So, and people die. They're waiting for like months and years for donor organ, and they die because there's not enough of donor organs. So what this company does in Pittsburgh, they take donor liver, they split it in 50 to 70 pieces. So that's the opportunity to help not only one recipient, but like 50 to 70 people. They take the small nucleus of donor liver, put it in our lymph node, use stem cells to stimulate growth, and then in the course of 3 to 6 months, your body actually regrows the new liver. Yeah? And it gradually picks up the function of your liver, which is not functioning well today. And because it's your body growing your own liver, the autoimmune rejection is much, much smaller in this case. So that's the opportunity to democratize, organ regeneration or organ replacement, because from one donor liver, you're helping 50 to 70 people, not one-to-one. So today, liver transplantation, as far as I know, it's like $800,000 procedure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's the opportunity for you to create $20,000 to $30,000 procedure and help so many people. And
so suppose I could create a second brain. What would I do with it?
Not sure. I mean, actually, heart and brain are the two most challenging organs to replace.
Don't let logic get in your way, please.
Yes, but then, but obviously, we can then, with this technology in the future, we will be able to recreate so many different organs and parts of our body. And I'm actually super excited that they work now in kidney space. They're starting to work that in something to recreate thymus, the part of our body which disappears with the age, and it's actually responsible for the immune system. Because if we will be able to extend the lifespan of our immune system, we're all going to be different at the age of 50, 75, and 100.
Annie, you going to say?
I was just going to ask, is it grown on the lymph nodes because it's a rich source of blood supply?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the answer is a little bit more complex, but in very simple terms, because, this is the part where, you have all the inflows and enough resources to regrow them.
So has any large pharma company bought them?
Not yet, but think about us. We obviously in a mission to, create money for our investors, but the other part of it, we're in a mission to create something, affordable and accessible for everyone, to change at least 1 billion lives. So, we're not necessarily working only on the premise let's just kind of do this stuff and then quickly sell it to big pharma. We're trying to bring disruption to the industry, which are very conservative today and not necessarily focused on disruption. That's
Is it a
the yet
public
part of.
company, sir? Is it a public company yet?
I know it's not public. Yeah, we
No.
don't do public companies. So some of our companies, we invested in 18 companies through Longevity Vision Fund. Were private and now they public, but no, they not public yet.
Are you optimistic about telomeres? Telomeres are the ends of our chromosomes that, as we get older, they shorten. There's a theory that
Yeah.
if you could lengthen them, you will increase longevity.
Yes. Yes, Adam. So I'm typical human being. I would love to have one answer to the aging question. But the problem is there's no silver bullet. There's no such a thing like telomeres or RNA or genetic deficiency, which would explain the phenomena of aging and age-related diseases. So we just need to be ready that, and it's, I think, very well written in a famous academic paper that we use, was published 10 years ago, called Hallmarks of Aging. There are, well, at least 10 to 13 known different dimensions of aging. I'm pretty sure telomeres might be one of them. It might be cause or maybe the outcome of some
Right.
of this mechanism. But like, frankly speaking, we're so blessed that at least for the last 10 years, we have at least, 10 to 13 different ideas why we age. Because before that, there was just like wild guessing. So we don't know
Right.
what we don't know about aging, but luckily we narrowed it down to like 10 plus different causes.
Right. No, I
And
know
I'm
you've got
100% sure they work in combination.
Just for our audience, what can you name a few of those?
Yeah, just to give a flavor, I'm not a scientist, never pretend to be. So one of the ideas of this is we have genetic deficiencies. So there are people in the world who are lucky in genetic lottery and never live to 100 years. That's why when
Yeah.
people tell you like, my dad, he died when he was 97 and he was smoking and drinking alcohol till he, last day of his life. Well, that's typical, lucky person in genetic lottery. I'm not judging. I mean, this is the fact. So part of it's probably up to 25 to 40% of longevity successes explained by our genetic setup. So that's one very understandable
Okay. Name
cause of that.
another one. Name another
Yeah.
one.
Second one is like in the process of our body works, we produce a lot of senescent cells, like a waste cells. And when our body becoming older, we lose our ability to get rid of it. So your, senescence waste are accumulated in your body and obviously makes the metabolic and other living organism processes much more complicated.
they call them zombies. They call them zombie cells, right?
Yeah, zombie cells, yes, or waste cells as well. And there are a number of, different ideas behind that. But I mean, it's going to be too scientific. But in the end of the day, I just want to repeat, we don't know what we don't know about aging, but I'm super happy that we have scientists and entrepreneurs in this world who are trying to solve this problem. We have some early success, early hypothesis on how we're going to find.
So my question is like, how many children do you have?
4,
And how old are they?
24, 12, 9, and 5.
Okay. So I sense two partners there, but
Yes.
because I'm
Yes,
telepathic.
you're right.
But, no, I'm just kidding. But how do you get them? Do you get them to eat the right things? Do you get them
Oh,
to?
I mean, this is my biggest problem.
Okay. Oh, your biggest. Okay, tell us. Tell us.
Yes. So, I basically failed to feed my kids in a way like I feed myself in a healthy way. So they still enjoy kind of fast food, sugar, etc.
Pizza.
Like and I know this is not my strongest point. Like the only thing which works, we take, dangerous food away from our home. Like every time they want to make this choice, there's no choice. So, and I remember one of my younger ones, he's now 12. He wrote a letter to, Christmas letter to Santa Claus. And he said, God, can you please send us normal pasta, non-gluten-free pasta to our home?
That's
Again,
so cute.
I'm not proud of it, but it's like, because the temptation from dangerous food ordered from the fast food or from industrial food is so high that I basically failed to fight that, with exception when I just literally take this out from our home. There's no availability of that, and then it's a natural choice for them to eat like cucumbers or
Right.
buckwheat or
Yeah, but
organic fish.
they process this, no pun, as child abuse.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm
Right.
I'm good father on so many dimensions. So all in all, they never had the opportunity to complain, and they know this is for
Well,
their benefit.
Did you have something then?
Santa is morbidly obese, so he was probably sympathetic to that request.
I was going to ask you this: how much is depression? Sadness, depression. How does this affect in your ideas of longevity?
So think about this, and I have a part of the book, this part called "Think and Grow Young," about the psychological aspects of aging. So every time we talk about health, in 90% of cases, this is physical health. And it's actually a reflection how the issue of mental health, which is actually much more definitive for our healthy and happy state, is neglected today. Because with the right mindset, you can make all the changes and improve not only your mental health and physical health as well. So I'm really sorry to see this literally pandemic of depression and mental health issues that we have all around the world. I'm pretty sure it's heavily influenced by our food choices, by our lifestyle choices, but also we're at the point of development of humanity where we create such a comfortable living for majority of our population. That's why people don't have enough challenge to develop themselves, to grow through the struggle. And sometimes to be distracted with external problems rather than some, artificial mental health issues that we impose on ourselves. But I feel really sorry about these people. I do know that in the future we will be able to help so many of them by right, food choices, healthcare choices, access to healthcare in a new science-based and technology-driven form.
And brain chips.
Yeah, not sure about this one. Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
delivered.
Well, aren't brain chips better than potato chips?
They are incomparable, Faith. I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah. Addie, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say stress causes inflammation. We all know the effects of inflammation. So and there's also the gut-brain axis is being interrogated. So it's not like there's mental health and physical health in silos. They are interdependent.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, Sergey, it was such a pleasure to have you. You're so brilliant. I'm sure that everybody's going to buy Think, and Grow Young, and be in contact with you and be following you. It was just fascinating. You're the guru of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Adam.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
everyone, for joining. And, if you want to continue to work with us and see what we up for and up to, is follow me on Instagram, Sergey Young 200, and buy a book on Amazon. It's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Thank you for your time.
Okay, what do you think? Do you feel younger?
I do. I feel motivated to go out and have that gluten-free pasta. Look, I think we are at a crossroads. People are talking about this. We have people like Sergey who are investing to make it happen and educating the public about it. I think what's exciting, and we didn't get a chance to talk too much about it, is some of these long-term goals that this research is looking at are going to have short-term benefits too, immediate benefits on people who are suffering from chronic conditions. So we're probably not investing enough, given how much money we're spending repairing people, not enough money protecting people.
And I loved what he said, but I can't believe you're going to stay married for, 150 years to the same person. It just doesn't seem. Of course, we're not going to be human that much. We'll be half and half, maybe. Or maybe we'll have a bunch of avatars that really work.
Right now, our lives are like a short story. When Sergey and others are finished, our lives are going to be like one of those sweet. Our lives are like a short story, 18 pages. We're going to end up with our lives like a Russian 19th century novel of 500 or 1,000 pages. So it's a new
beautifully
world.
put, as usual. Yes, a new long world.
Before Faith and I go, I just want to remind you to subscribe to Jolty, follow us, listen on your podcast platform of choice, tell your friends, make your enemies like you better, and get Jolty out into the world. We thank you.
Yeah, beam us up, babies. Ciao.
Beam us up, keep us up.